Welcome. Hello, everyone. Glad you're here. I'm Marnie Ginsberg, and we're going to be talking about how 3 activities a day can help your students' reading difficulties go away. So I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. I see people are popping in. Thanks for waiting and getting here early and being prepped. I am Marnie Ginsberg, and you're here for 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. So can you look above and find the chat and tell me where you're from? All right. Let's see if you can find the chat. Say hi. I'm expecting some more folks to pop on in. I'm hoping there's not too many technical difficulties. I sent out a message earlier today at the wrong time, so I hope that didn't cause people to get too confused. But you're at the right place at the right time if you are here for 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. That's what we're going to be talking about. I am Marnie Ginsberg, and I am in Madison, Wisconsin. And so I'm writing that in the chat, and I invite you to share with me where you are from. Not only where you're from, but what do you teach? I have taught a lot of different levels. Mostly right now, I teach privately. I work with teachers like yourself, and then I also work a little bit with students privately, K through high school, and I've worked with some adults. So thanks for being here. I'm Marnie Ginsberg, and this is 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. And I'm hoping that you guys can find the chat. There's a chat button somewhere. I've popped in and introduced myself, said where I'm from, and I'd love to hear where you are from. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, great. Tammy is from Missouri, and she teaches 4th grade. Okay. Tammy, do you have some kiddos who are below grade level? It's pretty common to have that, but maybe you don't. Welcome, Shirley from, you're a kindergarten teacher, and Annette from Oklahoma, a reading specialist. Glad you're here, Annette. Dorothy, you can hear me, great. Deb, kindergarten teacher in Tucson. Rachel is in Ohio teaching 2nd grade, perfect. Alice, K through 5, excellent. Hi, Diane. Anusia, beautiful name, if I said it right, from Brisbane, Australia. So this is Friday for you. I'm glad you're here. Wanda, you're teaching 2nd grade in North Carolina. Welcome, welcome. Shannon, you're from Florida. I hope you're doing well. Hope your school is in good shape. Diana, you're in Michigan, just a neighbor of mine because I'm right now in Wisconsin. Dorothy, K3. Yep, you got kids reading below level. Most kids in America, most classrooms in America do have that situation. Welcome, Pamela. Oh, great, Maria. Thanks for saying that you can hear me. And you're in El Paso, dual language. Okay. Rosemary, another Australian. Welcome in Adelaide. What do you teach, Rosemary? Carolyn, what do you teach? I'm so glad you're here. Diane, more from Australia. Karen in Utah. Rebecca from Delaware. Sharon is in Virginia Beach, pre-K through 4, or is that? Yeah. Okay. So let me know about that. Sharon. Jerry Sue in Minnesota, another neighbor. Anusia, you're a speech pathologist. Perfect. And this first activity, you'll just probably really align with it that I'm going to teach, called Switch It. Carolyn, Kim, Pam, Pamela, Linda, Sue, Michelle, Donna, Rita, Renia, Alicia, Judy, Wendy, Rosemary, Tammy. I'm so glad you guys are all here. I think we should get started. Are you ready? If you haven't heard of me before, I am Marnie Ginsberg. Oh my goodness, Diane, you teach to a lot of acronyms. I don't recognize all those. So I am Marnie Ginsberg, and you are in the right place for this presentation today. 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. And what we're going to do is keep that chat going. I hope to dive in there and answer your questions as we go, but I'm also going to answer them at the end. And I'm making this bold claim to you today that I can share with you just 3 activities that will really keep reading difficulties away. And it has been my experience as a private reading tutor and also as a staff development person. When I see other teachers use these activities, they get awesome results. And so I'm excited because this is going to save you time and also let you see changes that you may not have seen before. So you may want to know who this person is that's teaching you. What's my background? Well, I got started really on this path to be here with you today about 20 years ago when I was a 6th grade teacher, and my students in the 6th grade were reading at the 4th grade level. And I was kind of frustrated by that because I had a master's, I had reading courses, I'd paid attention in class, but I didn't know how to solve their problem. I could tell they didn't know how to attack unknown words. That was the primary reason for that 2-year gap. And then the next year I was in that school setting, it got even more daunting to me because I had 2 kids who were not even able to read 1st grade material. They couldn't read Dr. Seuss. So I felt a sense of panic because they didn't have any more time to waste. That was a 6-year gap, and I didn't know how to solve it. So I had been searching, and I kind of put the pedal to the metal and searched more, went to the university libraries, looked on the internet, such as it was in the mid-90s, went to bookstores. Finally, I found something, and I tried it with these boys, and it made a difference. And I got so excited about how much of a difference it made. I started focusing really just on that. I was confused, like, why had it been so hard for me to figure out how to teach these kids to read? And why was I getting so many different conflicting pieces of advice? How many of you have heard conflicting pieces of advice about how to teach beginning or struggling readers? It was all over the board. And I was looking at the university material and I was confused. So when I got something that worked, I was super excited. I decided to do private reading tutoring, and that went so well. I was getting kids to grade level in about 12 hours of instruction, usually over 12 weeks, 1 hour a week. I was so excited by that. And I thought, well, we just need to research this kind of thing more, because why was it so hard for me to discover this? So I went to the University of North Carolina and got my doctorate. And then I continued to pursue how to make this easier to teach reading when I was able to create a reading program that was done in multiple states in the US. And that program was where I and some other coaches taught these strategies, actually, which I'm going to show you today, to lots of teachers who use them with struggling readers, mostly K1 and some 2nd grade. So I got to see through the webcam what was going on in Nebraska and North Carolina, Texas, and New Mexico. And I got to see what was working well and what was still confusing because of the way I'd set it up. And so now I've basically refined and streamlined that process into Reading Simplified. That is the program that I've created, that I'm bringing you these 3 activities today. And Reading Simplified is really about streamlined classroom instruction and accelerated reading achievement for students. And it's based on that 20-year learning curve of mine of obsessing about how to teach reading and how to communicate it clearly to teachers. So I hope that you will find that I am able to communicate that these 3 activities can make a difference for you in saving you time. And yes, Maria, it will help ELLs learn to read English. They also, of course, would need vocabulary support and oral language support simultaneously, but this is how to get them quickly into the code. And the sooner you get them ELL kids into the code, they have another way of learning the English language, the vocabulary and stuff. Okay, Susan, I'm sorry you can get the webinar to connect. I recommend that you refresh or maybe go back to the email and link again. Sorry, Samantha. Yeah. Rosemary says reconnect. Good choice. Okay, great, Alice. Yes, ELL kids, this can be helpful for you. So I think that you guys may be here today and you said, wow, just 3 activities, that could be good, because what is teaching of reading but today but overwhelming? I mean, teaching in general is overwhelming, but when we look specifically at reading and all the standards that we're given and expectations and the different points of view, I think it's just overwhelming. If you think about how overwhelmed you are on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is, oh my gosh, teaching reading is a walk in the park, to 5 is, I am overwhelmed as I could possibly manage with reading. Where are you guys on a scale of 1 to 5? Give me a number in the chat. Not overwhelmed at all, which would be a 1, or very much overwhelmed, which would be a 5. Luz, there are some handouts in the emails, but I don't have access to them now. Rachel, yeah, I'm sorry. You're a 5. Brandy is a 4. Diane, 4. Dorothy, good. There's a 3. Anuzia, a 3. That's great. Wanda a 5, Linda a 5, Angie's just a 2. Sweet. Vivian a 3, and Alice a 4. So we've got a lot of 4s and 5s and just a sprinkling of 3s, and I didn't see any 1. So what is making reading teaching so overwhelming? Well, first of all, we got oodles of standards and guidelines and scope and sequence. Here, for instance, in the US, we use in many states the Common Core state standards. This is a list. Look how long it is. You can't even read the print. That's just for teaching of literacy for kindergartners, and never mind social studies, math, field trips, collecting their lunch money, all the things you have to do to be a teacher today. That is just one of the many things, because, oh, Rania says you're a 7. Oh dear. And that's just one level of standards. Then you have your reading series with all of its scope and sequence. For instance, this reading series just for phonics, just think about phonics alone, not everything else that it takes to become a reader. They would have you do from 1 to 80, and then 1 to 183, and then there's another page all the way up into 240. That is a lot of things to cover. How can you possibly cover that every day? And then if you cover all the way to 106 and you're trucking it along and you get to the oi sound and you look back and you think, now which kid knows oi and which knows a and which knows e? And because the gaps with your kids are going to be everywhere. This is too much for us to think about, particularly if we're trying to differentiate to a classroom of multi-levels, and who doesn't have multi-levels. D, I recommend, I don't know about Google accounts. Oh, maybe you're giving some advice, but I definitely think refresh or go back to the original email if you're having trouble. Oh, now you feel overwhelmed. We'll get you out of that, Rosemary. Another thing that can be overwhelming is Pinterest or just any social media. We didn't have this 10 years ago or 20 years ago when I had my own classroom. Always seeing the best of other people's classrooms and always seeing the best of other people's activities and thinking that we maybe didn't measure up, or maybe if our kids weren't doing well, maybe we needed to find another activity at midnight. And so Pinterest is wonderful. I use it. I get some ideas from it, but it can also make us feel overwhelmed and like we always need to recreate more and more and more. How many of you feel that way about Pinterest? Is Pinterest overwhelming, or no, not so much? Yes or no? What do we have here? Yep. Wanda, you've got kids reading multi-levels. Absolutely. And Alicia and April, I see that you guys are feeling a 5. Yes. Dorothy says, of course. Yeah. Rachel says that Pinterest can just suck you in. It's too much information. But Maria says, yeah. The other thing that causes the overwhelm, or maybe kind of waste some of our instructional time, is the isolated skill instruction that we're told to do. What I mean by that is we're told to do phonemic awareness orally only for, say, 15 minutes. We're told to do phonics, mostly just visual in isolation, for 10 or 15 minutes. Then we're told to work with high frequency sight words. Then we're told to do some handwriting and spelling, and maybe we'll get to read words. How many of you have reading programs or have been taught that way of teaching beginning reading? Like everything is an isolated skill and there's no integration. Do you have programs that are isolated? Type isolated. And if not, say no. That's great for you. Well, when you isolate, it might look like this. For instance, this is a phonemic awareness intervention that's from a very well-known reading series. And they would have you go to the 106th day, which are 106 lessons of 15 minutes a day of oral-only phonemic awareness. In other words, these first grade kiddos wouldn't have been exposed in that 15 minutes to any print, even though the National Reading Panel and much of the research tells us that phonemic awareness and phonics, when it's integrated from the beginning, makes a lot more sense. And so the isolation that I'm talking about is an inefficiency. And so it's very hard to get through everything if we are doing everything as big pockets of different things. Okay, so yes, you've got some isolated, some of you don't. Oh, Wanda, you're just on your own. Diane, Rebecca, and Brandy, isolated. Maria, yep, it's something that's very common. Here's another example. This is a phonics intervention. Again, they don't get into linking phonics with letter sounds and barely to words until after lesson 40. 40 days of 15 minutes a day of mostly letter sounds isolated from words. So here would be an example from that program. There's only one word in the 15 minutes that the child is exposed to at the beginning, first few months of school. That's not what research tells us. And it's going to slow us down if we have to do everything in isolation. So I'm here to tell you that there has to be a better way. Who's ready for a better way? Get rid of the overwhelm. Let me hear if you're ready for a better way. So what I'm going to suggest to you that is that you only need a handful of activities, but these activities simultaneously integrate multiple reading subprocesses. What do I mean by that? Multiple reading subprocesses. I mean that when you do one of these activities, it's going to simultaneously do phonemic awareness, phonics, decoding, high frequency words, the alphabetic principle, concepts of print, all of that bound up into one thing. Does that sound more efficient to you guys? You guys said you're ready. Rachel, everybody, Vivian, Dee, Kaylee. Oh, Sharon, you just started 2 weeks ago and you're doing vowels and beginning sounds. Okay. Are you doing it in the context of phonemic awareness and words? If you are, you're a rare school. So what's the advantage of integrating everything simultaneously? Number one, for you guys, you can save planning time, because the 3 activities I tell you about today, I can use and you can use with kids at multiple levels. So you have these activities that are in your back pocket that do a lot. And then, so you know you can go to them and they'll accomplish the goals. You don't have to create an activity for phonemic awareness orally only, and an activity for phonics, mostly just letter sounds in isolation, and an activity for decoding. You can do them all simultaneously, so it's a fewer numbers of activity. That sounds pretty good, right? Would you like to save some planning time? But also you'll save instructional time. And I think that's the biggest thing of this whole workshop today is the instructional time you save. Because when you do 15 minutes of phonemic awareness and 15 minutes of phonics and 15 minutes of high frequency words, you're at least 45 minutes. But you'll find this very first activity, Switch It, does pretty much all of that in about 5 minutes. Who wants to exchange 45 for 5? I do. I'd like to do that all day long, right? More time for other fun things like read alouds. Here's another thing. Because when we integrate instruction, it makes more sense to kids, particularly those kids with weak literacy environments or backgrounds, then it makes more sense to them. Reading has more things to hook. Their brain has more things to hook things to, because it's all integrated with real words and real text, just like they already use language. So it makes more sense. They accelerate more rapidly. Do you have kids who are struggling that you'd like to see them accelerate? Then these activities are for you. Alicia, if you got those really low ones, these will be really perfect for you. Give them a try. At least, Alicia, plan on already make a commitment to yourself to try this first activity. And the other thing that's great about these 3 activities I'm going to teach you, and just generally having an approach where you do an activity that does multiple things simultaneously, is that your guided reading or your small group reading instruction time is a lot easier to plan, because these activities work with multiple levels. And I'll show you a little bit about how that happens. And you know they're going to move the needle, so you don't, again, have to recreate the wheel. All right, so instead of being burdened and like having an albatross around your neck with all the standards and scope and sequence and guidelines and objectives, I'm going to put forth a streamlined system. I'll show you the system, the page, one page where I get kids from beginning to read to becoming fluent, or struggling to read to becoming fluent, all in one page, kind of one lens, one framework, instead of unending barrage of information and demands. So that's why I'm titling this 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away. What are those 3 activities? We'll get to that soon. Next, I want to tell you about where we're headed. Okay, so I've got about an hour's of instruction on these 3 activities. And then I also want to give you an offer to learn more, dive deep, and join me inside my membership called the Reading Simplified Academy, which is just an option. You'll still learn these 3 activities. And after that, I'll show you how you can join this membership and learn how these 3 activities work seamlessly in a system. And the other fun thing is I'm giving huge bonuses with this offer, just specifically for the workshop. And then I will give you the freebies. I'm going to offer you a Candyland O sound page. So learning the O sound, then playing the game of Candyland with these little cards you can print out. Also going to offer you a sorted packet, which is how, again, on the O sound. And that's one of our 3 activities. So that'll be really relevant to the 3rd activity I'm going to teach you. And then finally, you'll get the certificate of participation. So that will come after I teach these 3 activities. And welcome you to come join the membership of the Reading Simplified Academy. And then I'll offer those freebies. And then lastly, for anyone who wants to stay on, I'll be here to answer your questions. So keep the questions coming and I'll scroll back if I can't answer them now. Yes, Anuzia, they do work with students with disabilities. That's most of the kids that I've worked with have had learning disabilities, even more profound disabilities they can work with. They will not move as rapidly, but they'll move more rapidly than they do with traditional programs. It's a good question. So what are these 3 activities? Switch it, read it, and sort it. Those are the core word work activities I use with beginners or strugglers. Kindergartners, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, or struggling 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. Yes, it sounds crazy. You'd think that you'd have to use something totally different. No, I know as a reading tutor, my students coming, I know what I'm going to do. More or less, it's going to be the same with the 15-year-old as I do with the 5-year-old because these activities target the code and what's missing with the code. So I want you to understand that these are the word work activities, these 3 that I'm going to teach you today, but they're wrapped in a session that would definitely include reading. Okay, obviously you got to read real text, not just the words. So a good session would begin with rereading for fluency, reading something from the previous day to build high frequency word knowledge, fluency, automaticity. And then the word work activities, which I'm going to teach you in the next few minutes, switch it, read it, or sort it. And then you'd end with a new text or guided reading. So they're wrapped around that reading activity, but I just don't have time to show all of that today. So let's dive in first to switch it. Okay, that's our first activity. We're going to spend the most time there because it's really revolutionary. May seem simple, but it's a big deal. And it changes the way that the child's brain thinks about the code, moves them from bad habits to good habits. A little background about this, Hope. When you think about switch it and how it can work with multiple levels, the fundamental reason it works is because of this chart that there is a progression of phonemic difficulty with words. So some words are CVC, 3-sound words, like the word mop. And then some are slightly phonemically harder, like cost, CVCC words, consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant words. Mop is easier to segment, manipulate, or blend than cost, a CVCC word. And cost with the consonants at the end is easier than plug with the consonants at the beginning. That's why like spaghetti is so hard for kids to say, spaghetti, because those 2 consonants at the beginning, both speaking and phonemically processing them is challenging. But then of course, even harder would be a word like stomp, CCVCC, 5-sound words. And the hardest still would be that strand word with 3 consonants at the beginning. That's a mouthful. And then the next level up would be the multi-syllable words like simple. So if kids are doing switch it and they're at the very beginning, maybe they'll do CVC, but someone who's like my 15-year-old that I've been working with recently, he started out almost immediately with words like strands. Same activity, different level of progression of difficulty. Does that make sense to you guys? Have you thought about is the progression of difficulty making sense? Okay, that's really important to basically everything that we think about with the word work. Another one that's kind of a background thing is this is not your father's Oldsmobile. This is an old ad because they were trying to say, hey, we're a new thing. We're not that old fuddy-duddy car. So in the same way, I want you to look afresh at the switch it activity because what you will see is it is a game or an activity where kids manipulate letter sounds in and out of words, okay? Have we all done manipulating of letter sounds, making words, moving letter sound cards? Raise your hand or give me a yes if that's something you've done, or a why. I bet pretty much every person who is here has done this before, right? So what's different about it? There's 2 big things. Yes, says Dorothy and Shirley. Yes. The main thing that's different about this, yep, Wanda, Rania, thank you for chiming in. Great, Deborah. There's a couple things, but the main thing that I want you to be on the lookout for is that when kids do the switching, they're the ones doing the work. So the teacher says, okay, I see that you have the word stomp. I want you to change it to stump. How are you going to do that? So the child has to think, oh, it's stomp. And what is different between stomp and stump? And what they're doing is analyzing the letter sounds in the words. And they have to manipulate the phonemes, pull out the ah, plug in the to switch from stomp to stump. That is hard work. That is the brain training that they need to really understand the code deeply, to have very sophisticated phonemic awareness. And do you know, it's the same strategy that you and I probably all use to attack an unfamiliar word to this day. If I come upon a strange medical word or a strange Russian name that I don't recognize, I'm going to look at it and play with the sounds. I'm going to say, is this Dostoevsky or is this Dostoevsky? Do you see what I did there? I just changed that one vowel I was kind of confused about, and I manipulated it. And then I'm going to go, oh, I think it's Dostoevsky. I think that's what I've heard. And so that's how we work as adults. Let's give kids that tool, that strategy, and Switch It does that. Does that sound like a good strategy to gain? Do your kids have that strategy? Sometimes it may seem like it's too hard. So what we're going to do is watch an example of me working with some kids with Switch It. And I have 2 requests. Can you get 2? I'd like first for you to tell me whether the video is working and the sound's working. Secondly, I'd love for you to tell me at least one thing you notice about what they're learning. What are some of those sub skills that they practice? I promised you at the beginning that they're integrating multiple sub processes simultaneously. What are some of those? So list that in the chat, you guys, okay? And do let me know if you can hear it. Always. Eyelashes. Do you guys have eyelashes? But we're just going to build the word lash. Okay, you got lashes. Can you say the word lash and then pull each sound down and say it? Very nice. Let me hear the sounds. And the word is? Bingo. Okay, let's switch lash to lush. When something is lush, it is full. Like a lush garden is a full garden with lots of flowers. So switch it from lash to lush. What sound is it? Very good. Okay, let's check the sounds. And the word is? Did you hear those sounds? Let me hear them. Nice. Okay. How about, are you ready to make flush? Don't forget to flush the toilet, okay? Flush, we're going to have to add something to make lush into flush. What are you going to add? Flush. What sound are you pulling down? Oh, I like how you fixed that. Nicely done. Okay, let me hear the sounds. And the word is flush. Okay, let's do the sounds together, everybody. Awesome. Flash. If you have a picture and in the dark and you want to make some light, you may turn on the flash on the camera. Okay? So you've got flush. Switch it to flash. Flash. So close. You've got falsh. So close. You need, listen to what you need. Look at me and look at here. Yeah, you fixed it. Check the sounds. Very close. Ash. Okay, let's go back and check it again. And the word is? Flash. Do you see sometimes a flash in your eyes when somebody's taking your picture? Does it make you blink? Okay. Flash. Let's switch it to flesh. Our flesh is like our body. This is my flesh, okay? Flesh. Switch from flash to flesh. So close. Almost everybody's got it. You actually made flish. And we want flesh. Oh, good fix. Tell me the sounds. Flesh. Yep, each by himself. And the word is flesh. Okay, you want to cover them up? That's good. Let's cover the next one, okay? You've got flesh. Switch it to fled. I fled away from the danger. Fled. Fled. And cover. Fled. You're so close there. You've got flesh. Switch it to fled. We need the eh. to make fled. Oh, good switch. Nicely done. Okay, everybody together, tell me the sounds. Oh my gosh, everybody said flesh, but look at what word you have. What word is that?
Fled.
Fled. Do you know what it means? When someone fled, they ran away. Do you think that the rabbit fled from the dog when the dog started barking? What else might go away from a dog? Yeah?
Cat.
Okay, the cat would, can you say that? The cat
Fled
from the
dog.
Okay, anyone else have another animal?
A carrot. Because I was looking at that picture.
That's funny, and then made you think of it. Okay. The rabbit, the cat, the mouse. What about a mouse? Who could make a sentence with a mouse? Okay.
The mouse fled from the bear.
Oh, absolutely. Okay.
But that's a fiction, so the mouse cannot fly.
Okay, so when I say fled, I actually mean, it just means run away, escape. It's not the same as fly. Keep it down so we don't lose the letter. Yesterday I fled away. Today I flee. Oh, today we will flee the scene. Today we will flee from a burning building. But yesterday I fled the burning building. Those are big words. Maybe you haven't heard them that much. We can talk about that on our way out. Okay, switch it from fled to sled. We get to sometimes use a sled, don't we? When do we use a sled?
In the snow.
In the snow. Okay, tell me the sounds all together. And the word sled. Okay, last one. Sped. I sped and the policeman gave me a ticket. Sped.
It's actually called speed.
You can't, today you speed. Like if today I'm speeding down the road and then I come in and tell you what happened and, oh, I was speeding and the officer said I had sped. So it's a different form of the word, meaning in the past. It's tricky. Sped. Okay, but not everybody has sped. Cover up what you got. Let's see if you've got sped. Let's check it. What do you have? Wait, let's let him figure it out. He'll get it. He'll get it. Now you have listed. Let's go back. You had sled, and we want sped. All over it. You got it. Nicely done. All right, what are the sounds? Everybody do it together? And the word is? Now you know what we get to do? Gather up all your squares. Okay. You guys created the best list that I have seen. I've been doing this workshop for about 7 or maybe 8 weeks, and I have not seen such a great list. So, woo! I'm honestly telling you the truth. This is by far the best list. Very comprehensive. I think you hit things that I hadn't even considered. And Maria, you've just got a huge list. So, way to go for all of you coming up with this. I'm sorry, Samantha, about the video. I would recommend maybe refreshing. Man, I'll just tell her that. Or rebooting. Everybody, that can always happen with a webinar. The main things that were happening here, besides a lot of vocabulary, there happened to be kind of incidentally a lot of vocabulary because they needed that. But the main things that Switch It generally works on, although it supports vocabulary, is left to right tracking, the concept of the alphabetic principle, that our code is our written code is a code for sounds in words. Phonemic segmentation, they had to go do f, ul, a, sh. And phonemic manipulation, they had to change flash to flush. That's the prime thing that they need to get and the hardest phonemic skill. Were they practicing their letter sounds, particularly the vowels, the short vowels? We do as much switching of the short vowels as we can, because when you have to contrast two things, it really forces the brain. It's like a quiz. And every time you quiz your brain, you learn more than kind of passively thinking, oh, it's always ah, 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 ah. A lot of programs will just spend a whole week on ah, 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 ah. Guess what happens to the brain? It just turns off. But when you go back and forth, the brain turns on. It learns this stuff really quickly. There is some blending happening, although it's not so much blending because they already have heard the word, so they might not actually be putting the sound together. They may just be remembering the word, but there is that repetition of how to put the sounds together. There's decoding and spelling happening here too. And then there was a lot of vocabulary, as we pointed out. You guys caught on to that. And comprehension, complete sentence. I love all that because some of their oral language was a little weak. And so I needed to beef that up to make sure that we were not only just playing with sounds and words, but making sense. So that was just one exposure. These are the kids that I've worked with just for 2 days to produce this video. But what if you worked with a kid for a couple days in a small group for several days or several weeks? What might happen? So I want you to see the power of this activity and how that promise I made you early on about saving instructional time and accelerating your readers can be true. So this is a little case study. This little boy I worked with in November of this past year. I did what was called a 5-day challenge. So I encourage teachers like you on Facebook Live to try switch it, just this one activity, and do it every day for 5 days. And likewise, while I was on Facebook Live, I worked with him for 5 days in a row, 5 nights in a row. Judy says, yes, it's her program who does this is very effective. Great. I'm glad you have already discovered that. So this little boy was behind. It was kindergarten. He was his first year of school, 5 years old. And in November, he only knew 7 letter sounds, no short vowels. And he could not segment 3 sound words. Like he couldn't say s, and certainly couldn't manipulate them. Also, his mother had thought that she was dyslexic. So there's a lot of things going on with him. His teacher had said he was struggling. That could have been a high-risk situation. Now, 20 years ago, only knowing 7 letter sounds in kindergarten would be fine. But now the pressure's on, right? If he doesn't catch that train that's moving out of the station, he's going to struggle. So fortunately, he got one-on-one instruction for 5 days. And look at what happened. In just 5 days with one activity, about 5 to 10 minutes each night. This is all we did. On Sunday, or Saturday, I'm not sure, I gave him the pre-test, and he could not segment CVC words, but he knew 7 letter sounds. Notice no short vowels. You can't really make any word without a short vowel. On Monday, I started working with him at CVC level, but it was frustrating to him, to be honest. But we made some progress, and we added in some more letter sounds. On Tuesday, he was doing a little bit better with CVC. And then I added more letter sounds. Look, all the short vowels. Each day I kept adding more and more. And on Friday, he was handling 17 letter sounds in the course of that one 8-minute activity. And not only that, but he had moved from not being able to segment 3 sound words to being able to segment and manipulate sounds in CCVCC words, like stomp and stump. So I want you to see this for yourself. Would this be something, if your kids can move like that with an activity that integrates multiple things simultaneously, would that save you time? Would that be good for your kids? Would you like to see that kind of results for your kids? Well, this activity can do that. Let's see what happens with this little boy. Okay, what do you think? Would you guys like to see kind of results like that? I will show you the video. Again, let me know, please, if you can hear it. That's so helpful. You may need to turn up your volume. The first word that I'm going to ask you to build is the word Sam, like a guy's name. What do you hear right here when I say Sam? That's right, that's the letter name. But what sound comes out of my mouth? That's right. Which one of these is S? You got it. Okay, pull it down and say S. And again, because of Facebook's, this looks backwards to you guys, but it's left to right as it should be for him. Now let's focus on what's the next sound that you hear in Sam.
M.
You're so right. There is a that's coming over here. But I'm looking for this sound. I want you to listen really.
O.
I don't want you to think about what letter it is. First of all, I just want you to pay attention to my voice and your voice. What do you hear right here when I say Sam? What was coming out of my mouth right there?
B.
Sam. What comes out right there? Well, there is a you know what? Which one of these is That's This is Let's put that one down there. So you got the but what sound do we hear right here when I say sound? You got it. You heard it. That's So you have map, and we need mat. Oh, I like how you stay there, Okay, so you got rid of the pup in map, but we're using mat. Oh, you're hearing it. Very nice. Which one is t? Very good. You know what to do next? And the word is?
Mat.
Wow. You got soft. We need to switch it to sift. You have soft. Switch it to sift. Get rid of the that's right. What sound goes here to make which is it? It. Just say it. Sift. If you sift something, you separate it. Okay, let's check the sounds in sift. You have plot.
No.
Yep. Okay, plod.
Where's D? Is there any D on here?
Yes.
There we go.
And what sound is it at the end of plod? Check the sounds, and you got maybe one more. No, we're doing the word plod. Plod. That's a good thing. And let's check the sounds in stump. And the word is?
Stump.
Can you take away two things? Two things we're going to do to change stump to stun. Stun. Oh, that is so good. He got both of them. I didn't know if that was possible. We need to make stun. What's which one is That's O. You nailed it. Okay, I'm stunned that you did it. Okay, check the sounds in stun. It's hard thinking about that, isn't it? Stun. And the last sound? Stun. Very nice. All right, so I kind of was stunned by his progress. Were you guys stunned? Now, I see kids move rapidly all the time with Switch It, but I just don't normally work with kids privately 5 days in a row. So for a kid to not know CVC segmenting on Monday and to be CCVCC on Friday is pretty awesome. Would you like to see your kids make that kind of growth with just one simple activity? What do you think? Sharon says, I think by letting the children see the way your mouth is formed when saying the sounds helps a lot. You incorporate physical movement, sometimes teaching through the songs. Very good. Absolutely. As many senses as you can get. Notice I'm also pointing with my finger to the spot where the sound is located because the sounds are very abstract. So Dorothy says, yes, this would be awesome for her kids. And Maria, yes, yes. And Diane, how wonderful. Yes, this can be something that can work for you. I encourage you, no matter what happens the next minute, if you don't add the next activity or the next one, whether or not you get invested in the Reading Simplified Academy, go try Switch It. It will really stun you to yeah, absolutely, Rosemary. Stunned mullet at this moment. All right. Here is what one of the teachers in our Reading Simplified Academy said after she tried this activity. I coach teachers to learn an activity, go try it with a student or a group of students, and then report back. So it's a process of learning, which is really well documented. It's good for everybody, but also teachers. So she says, I worked with a first grade boy with Switch It for the first time on Friday. He had some challenges with the beginning of the CVC list. He was able to fix things when I followed procedures and gave the suggested feedback. He reported to his classroom teacher that he had learned how to spell. That was his understanding of what we did, and demonstrated by spelling the word math. I was unable to be in his building until dismissal time today, but when he saw me, he got out of line and would have followed me to the room to play Switch It. Isn't that what you want with your kids? You want to see transfer from the effort that you made into something else that they can do generatively on their own, and you want them to have confidence, a struggling reader who has confidence and moving quickly. Isn't that awesome? That was from one of our teachers who was trying Switch It in the early days. So Rebecca, how much time you spend is really up to you and what the constraints are. I would encourage teachers, this kind of answers Maria and Rebecca's question. I would encourage teachers to do guided reading with a small group for at least 20 minutes and to include about 8 to 10 minutes of word work, of which Switch It would be one of those activities. For my struggling readers, I might even go longer. Maybe I shorten the time for my advanced readers and make my, my lowest level group a little bit, longer, 25 minutes. So it's really, and Shirley, great question. When do you introduce letter recognition? Okay, actually Switch It is the main way from the very beginning. We introduce letter sound knowledge. The names are much less important because frankly, you only need to know the letter names to be able to spell out loud. That's about it. It doesn't help you learn to read. Letter sounds help you crack the code. And you can learn the letter sounds through this activity. You can start out with a small group like M, A, S, P, and T. And build words like mop, map, sat, pat, and just keep adding like that boy did. Add 1, 2, or 3 every day, depending on how fast they can go. All right, I got to keep moving, and hopefully I'll get to those questions at the end. All of that was about Switch It. And that was so powerful, but it really targets on word attack and decoding. But it didn't really address blending because I always spoke the word orally. What do your children do when they don't know how to read the word? They probably have to blend it. But there are a lot of problems that kids, especially those who are struggling, there are a lot of problems that they face when they try to blend. So I would love to hear from you. What challenges do you face when your students try to blend, particularly those who are struggling? You've probably seen some quirky things. I would love to hear those things. Anusia, this Switch It activity teaches them to retain it a lot faster than anything else I've ever tried. So because every time you switch it back and forth, it's a quiz. And every time you quiz your brain, you learn more. D, you don't stay on the level. No, you just keep adding because as you add, you're still reviewing the old stuff. Good question. So what are your blending problems, you guys? I'd love to know. So they see a 3-sound word if they're in kindergarten, or they see a multi-syllable word if they're in 3rd grade, and they might have some kind of blending problem. What are some of those blending problems? You're welcome, Dee. Takes a little while for this stuff to get through and back to me. So we're moving into the next activity. I want to hear what your blending problems are, and then we'll do the next activity that relates to that. That issue of blending is big. Dee says she'll hear them blend letters, but then say random words. Exactly, because basically they can't blend, right? They might say s-a-t and then say sun or cucumber because they don't really get it. Diane says having trouble with those, and Sharon, those beginning consonant combinations. Yeah, that's a really hard one. FL, BL, all the BLs, BRs. Exactly, Dorothy. How many of you have seen this? They say s, n, and then that last thing they said was n, so then they go nut. They guess the word from the first sound. Anusia, very classic. That's what my kids were doing in 6th grade when they were reading at the 4th grade reading level. They only had that strategy, and that was it. And that was not enough for reading multisyllable words at the 6th grade level. So there are 2 dominant approaches in the English-speaking world, and they're represented by 2 videos. This one's from Sesame Street. Now, it's a fabulous video. It's so cute. The song is super catchy. I don't have time to play the song, but what this little Muppet is doing is saying, hey, learn how to read a word, you just put the sounds together and push them together, and that's what reading's all about. And he goes, and he says, and just speed it up. But actually, what am I saying when I'm saying I'm saying I'm not really saying man. So many kids try this sound, sound, sound word method, and it doesn't work. And maybe it works for them with 3 sounds, but it doesn't work at 4, or it doesn't work at 5. Somewhere along the way, about 40% of our children who are trying the sound, sound, sound word method, in my experience, will struggle with that approach. It slows them down, maybe because they're relying on their memory, and maybe for a number of reasons. So I actually don't recommend the sound, sound, sound word method, even though that is the main thing that your reading programs are telling you to do. They'll say, okay, let's read the word. Class, what word? And some kids are fine. Does it work? It does work. But does it work with everybody? No, because you wouldn't have given me all these blending problems if you didn't have some blending problems in your classroom, right? So I don't recommend you do the sound, sound word method. I'm going to teach you another thing that will work with everybody. This is another one from Between the Lions. It's another really cute video. They do a lot of great stuff on that program, but I don't admire this element, because putting the onset and the rhyme et together, it causes the reader's eye to jump to the end of the word. And we know that good readers actually read sounds left to right. Their eyes sweep across the page. They stop, but they don't jump around much unless they have some kind of fix-up. But poor readers' eyes are like this. They're just all over the place because they don't really understand the code. They can't smoothly read left to right. Again, does onset rhyme work? Yeah, it probably works for most kids, but does it work for everybody? No, and you don't know who it's going to work for until they're on the path to struggling. So yeah, Tammy, what happens was they're going to leave some of those sounds out with the sound, sound, sound word method. So what I'm going to recommend is a strategy that I call blend as you read. And that strategy is the way that we teach blending that works for everybody. And I do it with the activity Read It. And Read It is kind of represented right here on this page. You take a dry erase board, generally, that's the most fun. Kids like dry erase boards. You write the word. The teacher would write the word somewhere. So say this teacher is working just one-on-one and she wrote swim on the child's board, but she didn't say the word. She said, okay, now I want you to read this word. And then she helped him read the word with the blend as you read strategy, putting the sounds together left to right continuously as he goes through the word. Not swim, but rather swim. It's a very subtle difference, but it makes all the difference for those who are going to struggle. After he reads the word, you say, okay, yeah, I love to swim in the pool. You define it. You put it in the context of a sentence. Then he says the sounds as he writes them. This is another way that you're reinforcing more literacy skills, spell and phonemic segmentation, another repetition of letter sound practice. He writes swim. And then you can even throw in the erase game. Afterwards, take the dry erase marker and you say the sound and he says the sound as you each erase your words. So it's a lot of multisensory practice of all the things, again, integrating multiple sub-processes simultaneously. A lot of bang for your buck. And it teaches the blending. So let me show you a super short video that is where a little boy is trying to read the word slap. Let me find the right one. Here we go. And this little boy has a speech difficulty and he's really struggled with phonemic processing. So this is pretty exciting because he's putting those 2 consonant combinations together at the beginning of the word. Let me know if you can hear this. Okay. Let's put these sounds together. Okay, what are the first 2 sounds? Put them together. Put all 3 together. Nice. Okay, great job. You put this. Okay, that's all there is to it. Wasn't it simple? The card was an integral part of it. You cover up part of the word so that he gradually reveals the rest of the word and he puts the sounds together. That's all there is to blend as you read, okay? It's super simple, but it's super powerful. Let me see if I can find the right presentation. Okay. Do you have any questions or comments about that? So the secret is, again, very subtle, but it makes all the difference. Oh, Kathy calls it crashing a word. Great. I love that. I'm glad that you're using that already. Here's another look at it. The child would put the first 2 sounds together, but I don't want them to say b, and then go back and do ba. I want them from the very beginning to be moving towards a real word, because in the context of real reading in a sentence, they might be able to say ba and immediately guess the word. And that's that reinforcement of decoding and using context kind of together that makes this activity so powerful, because we don't want to just purely rely strictly on sound processing. We want to also pull in meaning. So I want to encourage you, if you think, well, that doesn't look like that big of a deal, it's not that different from what I'm already doing, this is one of those small hinges that swings a big door. I found it makes a huge difference with beginners who are 5 or 6. I found it works with 14-year-olds and fifth graders. Whether they're working with 4-sound words or multisyllable words, they're dropping things out and they're transposing things because they don't know how to build sounds and build chunks of sounds left to right. So this is the key to solving that problem. And here's what another teacher in our Reading Simplified Academy said. Again, she tried Read It for the first time or the first week, and she comes into the teacher's lounge, just like our discussion board, and this is what she says. Love using Read It right after Switch It. My firsties like the fast-paced lessons. She means her first graders. I give each student a different word to read. They like to race to see who reads their word first. Very cute way to integrate some motivation and competition. And then she asked me a question. And yes, Dee, definitely do this activity right after Switch It. Here's another one. This teacher said, this past Friday, I added Read It to my word work during guided reading with all of my first graders. I struggled with the first few groups, but got the hang of it with later groups. I gave each child a different word to work on at their level, so they were not using the same word. That's clever. The exciting thing is that later that day, I was showing one of my little girls that struggles in reading how to find books for independent reading. As she was struggling with words, I encouraged her to use the Read It approach, and it was wonderful to see the transfer. And then she has a question about multisyllable words. So again, we saw that earlier, that the transfer was what the teacher noticed with that student with Switch It. Here's the student that's the teacher's noticing transfer with Read It. Very exciting. Do you guys think that you could try the blend as you read approach if you haven't tried it before? Yeah. How long? So you would do all of your word work in about 8 to 10 minutes, typically. And Switch It might be half, and Read It might be half of that time. All right, Maria, Karen, Shirley, absolutely. You're going to try blend as you read. Yay! Go find a kid who's really struggling and sit down with them just for 2 or 3 minutes and see if you can unlock something for them. So put in some questions about Read It, and if I can't get to them now, I will answer them later. Okay, so we're moving on to our final activity. The first two, Switch It and Read It, are pretty much all at the short vowel level because you want to introduce them to the code in a way that's somewhat reliable and predictable. But of course, unfortunately, English is not reliable and predictable. If it were, you wouldn't be here slightly frustrated with how your teaching of reading is going, because it would be a lot easier to teach. Yes, Rosemary, it could be to whole groups or small groups, but I recommend small groups as much as possible because you'll be able to meet them at instructional match. Some kids may need CVC Read It. Some kids may need CCVC Read It. And Maria says, how long do they need Read It? You do Read It till they get the blend as you read strategy down and they know 70% of their short vowels. Then you replace Read It with Sort It. So Sort It is the answer to the trickiness of our code. It's where you do advanced phonics is what I call it, or long vowels, or all those tricky vowels. Okay, so let's dive in with Sort It. One thing to keep in mind is the code could be broken up into basic and advanced. Basic is where we have been functioning so far: consonants, short vowels, and consonant digraphs like SH, TH, CK. That's pretty predictable and reliable, so you start out there, but you don't stay there too long because most of the code, much more of it, is the nastiness of long vowels and beyond. That's the advanced code. So when you're teaching the advanced code with an activity like Sort It, you're doing the basic code again. You're not abandoning short vowels, but you're also adding in these tricky long vowels, etc. So that's what you will see in Sort It. One thing I want to point out that saves a lot of time with Sort It is that it's the antithesis of what a lot of reading programs will do. A lot of reading programs think that kids can't handle a lot of information at once. And when it's disorganized, I agree, they can't handle it. But when it's organized, they can handle it. So a lot of programs will say, oh, let's do ER on Monday, and let's teach them O as in OW on Tuesday, and say Thursday we're going to teach them E as EA, etc. Just kind of from the child's perspective, bouncing around. You wouldn't teach math that way. You wouldn't teach 2 plus 3 on Monday and 4 plus 7 on Tuesday, and Wednesday teach 5 plus 6. No, we teach the 2s kind of as a unit because there's some coherence there. And then when they've gotten some handle on the 2s, we throw in the 3s. They're still reviewing 2 because 3 plus 2 is in there. And then we work on the 4s. There's some organization. But why is our code so frequently disorganized? Not all programs are like that, but the majority of the programs that we have for beginners or strugglers are disorganized. So I recommend, if nothing else, when you think about your long vowels and all the tricky advanced phonics spellings, to group them by sound and introduce your students to one sound at a time and its main spellings simultaneously. They can handle it. Trust me on that. Give it a try. They'll surprise you. They may not memorize them all the first day. I'm not saying that. They'll memorize them a lot more quickly, and they certainly can handle the concept that one sound can have more than one spelling, and these are the various spellings that I'm going to start working on. It raises the bar, gives them something to challenge, and it gives them some order. So here's an example. The O sound is where I typically start kids off, and they would spell the O sound the way that the O in boat is, and the different spelling for the O in slow, and the O in note, and the O in most, and the O in toe. Are you with me? Does organization sound promising or useful? Type order. Do you like order? Who doesn't like order for teaching, right? Now, you may already have that in your programs, but most, like I said, don't. So here's how I create order and organization with the activities sorted. It's like this one page. And so the students are learning the O sound. Dorothy likes order. And Maria has taught them, by sound. And I would encourage you, you can even fold in more than just 2 spellings. Maybe you already are, but some programs will introduce maybe 2 or 3 spellings. I want to recommend you put in as many as they can handle, particularly the high frequency. So this is for a first grade reading level. They would read these words like go, road, slow, toe. Notice they're bolded. So you can do this really early. They may not already know that OA is O, but you're telling them, oh, these are all going to say oh, so they can attack these words. They can read it, blending as they read, just like they did in read it. And now we add the addition of not just having to read it and write it and say the sounds, they also have to sort it. So what happens when they're sorting? They have to look at those inside parts of words, which for you and me is so easy. We think it's not a hard activity, but if the kids don't have this experience, it can be, or if they're weak visually, this is really a good activity. You'll see that they're going to have to look around and they may miss it. And that's a sign that these little visual representations need lots of exposure, and they need to look at it, examine it, place it in the right spot, and say it and write it. So when they write it, they don't say, for instance, with a row, they wouldn't say r, ah, d, of course. They would say r, o, d. So the whole time they're saying the spelling of the O, they link it with the sound. And you'll notice there's also a key sentence. That we have with each sound, one for the O, one for the E, etc., one for the sound. And that's just a visual, a mnemonic, like a mental framework to hook all this information. And it works for me too. And I forget, what's that last spelling of O? I just remember my key sentence. Oh, go home, to show, the boat, to Joe. These are the most frequent spellings of O. They're not all of them because we're working at the first grade level. And the O in dough, like cookie dough, maybe not the most important thing for them to learn at this point. And also notice about sorted that these are mostly, insofar as we are able, high frequency words. They're from the top 300 fry words. So they're not only learning the spellings that are most frequent, they're learning the words that are most frequent. And they can do sorted for a few times during the week. And these will start to stick. Okay, so let's go see an example. And sounds like you guys are liking the concept of order. Let's watch our last video, I believe. This is the boy's, I think he's in the 2nd grade, and he was having some struggle. Maybe this was him in 1st grade. And this is his introduction to sort it. And again, I have a secret sentence to tell you to help you remember the O spellings. Go home to show the boat to Joe. Okay. Here we go. What is he doing?
Sailing?
Yeah. He's going on. He's looking for Joe's house. What's he going to do? He's going to go home to
show the boat to Joe.
So we take that key sentence that helps you remember all of these spellings and put it up here. Go home to show the boat to Joe. Then we have all of these spellings. You see them?
Mm-hmm.
And what are all of those spellings, what do all of those spellings have in common?
A-O.
They're all what sound?
O.
Oh, okay. So what you get to do is read a word and then decide where it goes.
Okay, let's go, go, go.
Just read it first. What is it?
Go.
Go. Where does it go?
Boom.
Okay, so in this white space, write go and say the sounds as you do.
G.
No,
Wait. Good.
that's it.
O.
Good, good. Okay, let's try this one.
O. Show.
Mm-hmm. You will show me where it goes. Just focus on show. Which one of these spellings? There you go. Okay, say the sounds as you do it.
O.
Nice. This one? It's all the
Oh,
O. Good.
row.
Good. I like how you figured that out.
Row, row,
Oh,
row,
close.
row.
But you have to read the end. Row.
Road.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I totally thought it was like row, row, row your boat down.
But this is not row. It is.
Road.
Uh-huh.
Road.
Okay, so that was sorted. I would get him to do at least one word for each column and get him started with his exposure to those spellings. Maybe he could go off on his own and finish it or take it home for homework. And then another time when we would meet for guided reading in a small group, he would do the same worksheet or a different worksheet, but the same sound, getting maybe more exposure to high frequency O sound words. But he would work on the O sound all week. Does that sound like a little bit more organization and a little bit easier way to memorize stuff? The organization, the mnemonic, the saying the sounds, the grouping by sounds, all of those are the characteristics of Sorted. Now, these are worksheets that are part of the Reading Simplified Academy, but you don't have to have the pretty worksheets. Just get out a piece of paper and write columns and get a list of words that are high frequency O sound, and then one week and have them sort by spelling, and then get another list of E sounds the next week and sort by spelling. So those are the 3 activities that will save you so much time and accelerate your readers. And how did they save so much time? Well, this is a list on the left of Common Core State Standards for the kindergarten level. This is just one of about 5 or 6 pages of all the standards for literacy. Notice the purple columns in the center. Those are for switch it, read it, and sort it. Every X means that standard is being met by that activity. So switch it meets 19 standards all at once. So you don't have to take a standard and match an activity to it. Pick another standard and find another activity. Find another standard and another activity. That is inefficient. It's isolated. Switch it, and all of these activities, they integrate all these things simultaneously, so they make more sense to your readers, particularly those who have weak, or I should say limited literacy backgrounds. And you don't have to create so many activities. It's so much easier on me as a reading tutor. I don't have to worry about what's gonna happen each day. I don't really spend much time planning, except sometimes when I'm like have a student that's more frustrated, I might make more games up, but I know it's still going to be related to Sorted. So for Sorted, we would do Sorted all week, and we would do other things to reinforce O, the O sound. We would read O sound text. We would reread O sound text until we've built up a lot of knowledge of O sound spellings and O sound high frequency words. Sue, spelling is a lot harder than reading, so I wouldn't necessarily link them because they can read these words prior to when they can spell them. You might want to do some of that linkage because that would be a nice connection, but you'd probably pick the easier ones or the most frequent words, and maybe you'd have a smaller list. So with these kinds of activities, with doing one sound a week, O one week, E next week, you can get to most of the advanced phonics information covered in 12 weeks. And then you're moving kids on to working on fluency and not having to beat your head against the wall so much about phonics. Now, sometimes it'll take longer, especially if your kids are in kindergarten, they don't know any letter sounds, or if they have special needs, but it doesn't need to take 2 or 3 years like most of our reading programs are telling us. So would you like to have it go faster? So this is what Jo, she's in South Africa, and she said about Sort It and kind of Reading Simplified in general. She said, Reading Simplified has reinforced how I feel reading should be taught. Sort It is a brilliant activity to expose learners to the different spelling choices of one sound. It empowers the learners to recognize more phonic patterns, which in turn helps them to improve their reading as well as their spelling, just like you asked, Sue. I've used Sort It with the younger learners that I work with as well as the older learners I see. They pick up and remember the phonic spellings a lot quicker than one would expect using this technique. You definitely need to give it a try. Awesome, Shirley. I'm so glad you think this is great. It is such a lifesaver for me. So if you have some questions about Sort It and how you would read passages that would relate to that target sound, go ahead and put them in the text. We'll get to them very soon. So that's it for the 3 activities. Switch It and Read It, which really targets short vowels. Sort It, which would target long vowels and other advanced phonics. And together they make up a trifecta that really knocks decoding off to the curb, and it just solves a lot of decoding problems. I would really ask all of you to please give Switch It at least a try. You may feel bold enough and can do all of these, but at least go out there and try Switch It. Choose difficulties of words that are slightly harder than you think your kids can handle, and see what they can, and see how it goes. Hi, Mylene, we're glad you're here. So I want you to know these things that I'm recommending aren't coming out of the blue, and they're not just based on my personal experience as a private reading tutor. The principles that undergird these 3 activities and really all of Reading Simplified, the whole approach, they come from key consensus documents in the literature, like the National Reading Panel Report, the Preventing Reading Difficulties in Young Children. And even more specifically, the previous reading program that I created at the University of North Carolina, which was employed in 4 states in the U.S. with hundreds of teachers and used with thousands of struggling readers. We use these 3 activities. There were some other things that kind of filled it out, but Reading Simplified is similarly filled out, but a little bit more. But these 3 were really the core. And with all the journal articles, some of which you see here, like the Elementary School Journal or Journal of Educational Psychology or Learning Disability Quarterly, and there were others, with all of them, we got strong effects, medium to strong effects in all reading measures. For instance, the Elementary School Journal, all 4 reading measures that we did, they got effect sizes of 0.4 to 0.7, and comprehension was the strongest effect. Now, isn't that interesting? Because I just told you all the last hour about how to boost decoding and word recognition, but really the impact was on their comprehension that was most significant. Sue, yes, you will keep an eye out for a replay. Vivian, I'm so glad that you are going to be able to get these started. So that's kind of the research level. Let me zero in on what it looks like with me as a teacher. So I privately tutor. Remember that kindergarten student that we started out with Switch It, and he moved so rapidly in the 5-day challenge? He knew at the beginning 7-letter sounds. He couldn't segment CVC words. He was frustrated, and his teacher had flagged him as being concerned about his reading. I worked with him in November for that 5 days, and then we got started to work together for about 20 to 30 minutes in January. We worked with him maybe every other week until the end of May, and then I tested him in early June. And his word attack, meaning his ability to read sound symbol decoding, nonsense words, which really shows how his sound processing is functioning and his phonemic decoding is working, was like a 4th grader at the 3rd month. So he was a kindergartner who was struggling, and now at the end of his kindergarten year, he was able to attack unknown words like a 4th grader. His word identification was like a 2nd grader at the beginning of the year, and his spelling was like a 2nd grader at the beginning of the year. Would you like to see your kids make that kind of progress in 5 months this year? All I did was these 3 activities plus reading and rereading. That's the bulk of it. But it's not just the little bitties. They're not just the beginners. Also, here's a 15-year-old. Exactly, Dorothy. Wow. That's why I'm so passionate about spreading this. I see kids who are frustrated, and I know it doesn't have to be so hard. These activities are power packed. So here's a 15-year-old that I worked with. He was just diagnosed with dyslexia after struggling for a long time and not knowing the reason. Why was he dyslexic? Well, his nonsense word decoding was like a first grader in the 8th month, even though he was a freshman in high school. What a huge gap. And he was slow at reading too. I did these 3 activities: switch it, read it, and sort it. A few other things, including a lot of rereading because fluency was an issue. And I worked with him for 12 hours across several weeks. I just met with him one-on-one for 12 hours. At the end of that, his non-word decoding, which had been a 1.8, was a 10.0. He was ready to be a sophomore. When we were done at the end of the summer, he had jumped almost more than 8 grade levels with mostly these 3 activities. His word ID still needed a little boosting because he needed to practice, but his passage comprehension, this really surprised me. It always goes up, but it went up really a lot with him, which meant that he had a lot more capacity than he'd been operating with. It had been like a 5th grader, and it went up to 16.9, which is kind of like the end of college. So it doesn't always go up that much, but that just shows that once he was able to access the code and attack words and read left to right quickly, his brain had a lot of reasoning available to make sense of words. So I'm glad you guys are saying, yes, fantastic, can't wait to start. Yes, you want your ELLs, Maria, to be reading English in June. Amen. Alicia says, amazing, can't wait to get started. So Maria, I use the Woodcock-Johnson Reading Mastery Test. So give these 3 activities a try, and at least just, if you feel like it's too overwhelming, just start out with switch it. You can do that, okay? Start it tomorrow or start it Thursday. And so I want to share a little bit with you about how you can put all this together and get more of my support, and then I'll offer you those freebies, and then I'll have the FAQ. So let me ask you guys a question. Would you like to be able to implement the entire Reading Simplified system? This was just what you could learn in an hour. Would you like to see how it all fits together and how you meet each kid's needs? Does that sound like a good idea? Yes, says Maria. Linda's excited to start this. What do you think? Yes, says Luz. Vivian, absolutely. Trina, yes. Diane, yes, please. Shirley, yes. Deb, exactly. You just don't want to waste any more time once you find a better, more streamlined way. And would you like to save planning and instructional time? Your hard work, but planning, but also in the classroom. Rachel says, definitely we'll try these strategies in her guided reading groups. Great. Wanda, absolutely. Anosia, Jerry Sue, yes. We want to save time. We don't need to be staying up late. Our job is hard enough, right? And this is probably my most important question for you guys to think about. Would you like to see every student succeeding in reading? You are probably really strong teachers, or you wouldn't be looking for, doing this kind of thing on your free time. But yet you probably still have that kid or that group of kids where they don't quite make the gains that you want. And you know that you want more for them. That was what I felt like when I was that 6th grade teacher. And I knew that it wasn't that hard to read, but they weren't succeeding. And I didn't know how to bridge the gap. So you guys are saying, absolutely, yes. Everybody wants these. So I want to introduce you to the Reading Simplified Academy. This is a membership where I put all of these pieces together for you, and I guide you in the process step by step of how to learn this system and try these activities in your guided reading groups or one-on-one or whole group if that's the way you choose. What is inside this membership? First of all, it's a video course that you can get access to online wherever you are. So you might see it kind of small. There's these units here. One of the units is Switch It. And so you learn what you learned today, but with more videos and more information and word lists. And then the next one you would do is Read It. Then you get more coaching on guided reading and Sort It and rereading. But just really mostly what I've taught you, folding out a little bit more and how to fit the pieces together into a streamlined system. So the video course is a really valuable part of the membership. The other part, as you saw earlier, is the Teacher's Lounge. And that's where teachers like yourself who have invested in the membership, and I am in there answering questions and supporting one another. So I'm guaranteed to be there I shouldn't say guaranteed because I might get sick or I'll take some vacation days, but I am mostly there every weekday at least to answer your questions. When do you get help on a daily basis about your tricky kids, or small group planning your small group lessons? That's what the Teacher's Lounge is there for. Plus, it's there for you to reflect on what you've learned in the video course. Then you also get all the materials to use these activities. So if you want to do sort it with the O sound, you can have sort it for kindergarten reading level, and you can have sort it for first grade reading level, sort it for the second or third grade reading level, and sort it for the fourth and fifth grade reading level. I even use it sometimes with my high schoolers. And not only the sorted page, but then reading material that aligns with that sound. So sorted pages like there's row, row, row your boat. It's got a couple O sounds in there. And then the students circle the O sound spellings. And then for the I sound, you see in the back, there's the island. So again, differentiated. We've got kindergarten reading material, first grade reading material, second and third grade reading material, and fourth and fifth grade reading material. Kaylee says, this is going to help a lot. Yes, our teachers who have been joining recently are making some big progress at the beginning of the school year. Monthly workshops. So I'm there doing this with you, this kind of thing, except they're a little shorter. This one's going a little long because you guys are so enthusiastic. So I continue the learning, and then if you're not able to make the monthly workshop, it goes into the academy and you can replay it later. And so there I am, I sheepishly say that I'm a literacy expert. There I am to give you support, just what you need when you need it. That's something that I never had. When I was a teacher, I got the lamest feedback, obviously. I mean, actually, it was good feedback, but it was positive, but it was meaningless to me. It just check, 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 check. And the guy across the hall who gave grades based on student behavior got the same check, 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 check. So it's rare that we get this kind of feedback. So that's what I'm there for in the Teacher's Lounge. You can take this anywhere. You can do it on your own time, 5 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and go to the coffee shop and have some fun. This is the system that it all kind of boils down to. Remember, I talked about how there's so many scopes and sequences and standards, and you can teach kids to read pretty much with this one pathway, 12 steps from not reading or struggling with reading to being fluent. And usually each step takes a week, maybe it takes 2 weeks, maybe it takes 3 weeks, but still it's not going to take you 2 or 3 years. And I think about reading this way, just everybody is on this continuum until they're fluent. No kidding, says Maria. Yeah, we don't get a lot of support, do we? So you don't have to overthrow what you're already doing. You can, if the curriculum says to teach the OA sound, and it says also to teach some phonemic awareness, you can do that with Switch It and Sort It. So you just tweak and you have something that you can always rely on that moves the needle. And really what's so pivotal is that this will work for a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old who doesn't know much about the code, but the same system, the same activities will also work with the 5th grader or the special education 9th grader. And that's what I do every day in my reading tutoring business. So how much did all this cost? Like, there's a lot that's going on here in this membership. So the video training alone, I've seen courses like this be $300 to even up to $1,800. My master's itself was $26,000, and I didn't learn how to teach reading. It includes these hundreds of student differentiated pages. So that if I was to put that on Teachers Pay Teachers, it would be upwards of $300 if all the pages together for all the different levels. And you may say, well, I'm just a first grade teacher. I don't need that many levels. Well, yeah, you do, because you have some kids who are reading at the kindergarten level, some that are reading at the 2nd, and some maybe that are even reading at the 4th. So we all need a range. Again, the monthly professional development workshops, just for you guys, the people who are in the academy, who are members and meeting your needs, answering questions. And then you have those recordings that are just for you. Individualized coaching, again, we talked about how rare that is. That's part of the Teacher's Lounge. And then you have the other folks who are like you, who come up with good ideas and share resources. So this could be anywhere from $1,500 to nearly $10,000 if you think about equivalent in other, other places that you would go to get answers like this. All these answers together, they could be quite costly. If somebody was to come to your school and give you coaching on your student, even weekly, let alone daily, how much would that cost? It's pretty unfathomable. And so let's just think about the pieces. What, again, to rehearse kind of what's in there, because I know I've dumped a lot at you. How valuable would the course be alone? Would the course teaching you the system and how to do these activities in more depth, how much would that be worth for you? How valuable would that be to teach your kids and to accelerate their achievement and to save you time? And what about just the materials? If you learned enough today to do Switch It and sort it, but you don't want to make your own sort it worksheets, you don't want to find your own Switch It word list, what would be the value of all those materials to you to have at your fingertips just to download? And how valuable is access to a literacy expert in a community of teachers doing the same thing on the same mission with a high standard for themselves? How valuable is that? Kind of hard to put a price tag. And this is the most important thing. How valuable is knowing how to teach anyone how to read? I thought it's worth pretty much most of my energy in this adult life that I've had, because I've been working on this question, answering this question for 20 years, because I think it's tragic how many of our kids are struggling with reading. And when they struggle with reading, they struggle with school, and then they struggle with self-identity, and they cause behavior problems. And many of them drop out of school and they get on welfare, or they get on drugs. Of course, many kids just struggle with reading, and then they have a hard time in school, and then they may not feel so good about themselves. So it's not everyone's headed to welfare, but the trajectory for those who struggle with reading is just much weaker in all social domains, and kids deserve better. So I think that's really a very important part of why you might want to make this investment. So it could be that you might spend anywhere from $1,500, if we add all that up, to maybe $9,000. But because of digital technology, I can do this for you for just $39 a month. It's a membership that you can come in and leave when you want. You can get a discount by joining for a whole year and saving 2 months worth, which would just be $390. So I went to learn some of these strategies that first year when I found these activities to help those first grade boys. I drove 8 hours, and I spent my entire spring break, and I spent overnights, and I spent $750 and maybe another $250 for the materials. And that was really valuable. I'm so excited about it, but it was a lot of money. And then at the end, I still was kind of on my own. I didn't have a coach. And if you were to go get your reading specialist license, would you have all that? So $39 a month can be quite a steal. So I'm going to give you the freebies. I'm going to let you have access to Join Now. If you want to look at joining the Reading Simplified Academy. And then I'm also going to start answering questions. But I also think you might want to know about some bonuses. Who likes some bonuses? Can you get that freebie? Actually, before I give you the bonus, before I give you the offer, get those freebies. Okay, click that button. Are you able to get the button to get the offer? I'm sorry, not the offer, but the freebies. Can you get that? Because then I want to share with you what the bonuses are. Then we'll have the FAQ, and then we'll call it a night. Can you see the freebies? Okay, great, Linda. Thank you. Okay, Maria. Thank you, Tammy. So let me share with you those bonuses. So I've got 2 types. I got fast acting bonuses because I know you're excited and you're on. If you keep this trajectory moving, you will really make a difference. Maybe even tomorrow, maybe definitely Thursday, certainly next week. So I want to encourage action takers, because the action takers will get the results, and that's what my mission is. So I've got 2 types of bonuses. 2 things are available just for the remainder of this hour. So to the top of the hour, you can get 2 extra bonuses above the regular bonuses, which I'll teach you in a minute. So you can get the ebook, a multimedia ebook, 3 activities a day to keep reading difficulties away, which is about a $17 or $19 value. It's what you just learned with videos and the procedures, so mapped out. So if you like to take a Kindle and read when you're on the go, this is a great way to learn some of these strategies and have kind of that multimedia learning. You will also get Snakes and Ladders, which is kind of like Chutes and Ladders, 7 different PDFs. So you get one for the O sound, one for the E sound, one for the A sound, etc. So those 2 bonuses are just if you join before the top of the hour. Okay? You guys are welcome for those freebies. I'm glad that you can get them. Alicia, no, I can't email it to you because many people didn't come, or so those that didn't come don't get the freebies. That's kind of my little bargain. Now, the rest of these bonuses are available to all of you before, it says Sunday, but that's an error on my part. It should say Friday. I just realized, I'm sorry. Friday at midnight, you can get 5 Steal It games, which is a really fun game. And I show you a video if you get the bonus about how to play the game, but it's really fun. It kind of tricks kids to read words. And again, you would do one sound at a time. So one week you do the O sound with Steal It. Another week you do the E sound. So there's 5 different sounds for Steal It. And there's the video, and I would show you how to play. And then you get 7 Candyland games. Again, so you've got all these centers that you could just have immediately ready to map onto the Streamline pathway so that when kids are at the O with your small group, they can do Candyland, they can do Steal It, they can do Chutes and Ladders, all these games, okay, or Snakes and Ladders. And then the other bonus, these are usually part of my premier pricing, $99 a month. But I would love to offer you 2 calls with me. We could be on the phone, or we could be on Skype or Zoom or FaceTime, and I can talk with you about your issues, or I could watch you instruct a child or a group of children. That's one of the things that I got to do. And I was doing research at the University of North Carolina. And after teachers got over the fact that, I'm not an administrator there, I'm just to cheer them on and answer questions, and that they realized that was very powerful. So those are some of the bonuses that you can get before Friday. I'm sorry, it says Sunday. I messed up. So on the left in black are all the features that are part of the Reading Simplified Academy. Then you also get these fast acting bonuses if you join before Friday. So I want to put out that offer for you guys. Here is the offer. This is the link. You can join now. And the extra good bonuses, they end in about 40 minutes. So let me show you those super fast acting bonuses again. It's the multimedia ebook that links to videos and teaches you the procedures, and is something for the person that doesn't want to always be on a video. And you also get all those 7 Snakes and Ladders games. So you just take a normal Chutes and Ladders board and play this. So the O sound would have not only these O spellings that you see, but it would have OA spellings like boat and road. It would have OW spellings like no and show. And so then there would be 7 of those. O, E, A, I, and maybe oo. I can't remember. And then once you go to that page, if you find this, you can click on Join Standard now to pay $39 a month. The Premier is $99, and that is the same as the Standard, except it's a lot more of my time, not just in the Teacher's Lounge, but actually just talking with you or watching and coaching. And once you've signed up, then you would have email access to go straight into the Reading Simplified Academy. Make sure you bookmark the page once you join in, and so you can quickly start the learning and you dive in to switch it. So these are the things that you get if you join by midnight Friday. So everybody, please at least start Switch It, and do consider how I could save you a lot of time and anxiety. If you were to join the membership, you might see some really amazing results. So let's have some FAQ time. All right. Type in some questions. Dee, of course, it's been a little longer than I had planned, but I've been so encouraged by your dialogue and the back and forth. You're welcome. Are you going to try Switch It? Everybody, I want to get everybody to at least commit to Switch It. And Karen says, thanks for these great ways to help our students. Awesome. I'm so glad. Lisa, you're welcome. So type in a question or go to that offer and join and snag these bonuses and start learning how to implement this. And I'll be there with you, walking you through the process. Yep, Karen. Yes. Okay. I'm going to scroll back and see if I can answer any questions that I might have missed. But if you have another question, pop it in now. And I'll just stay on for a while. So Maria already answered that. Which assessment? We use the Woodcock-Johnson Reading Mastery. I also include informal assessments, Maria, and all of you, to help you figure out how to group kids. So that's part of the Switch It unit. Just some very quick assessment if you don't have information about their phonemic segmentation, their letter sound knowledge, or their blending, then that is a tool that I give you. It's not normed, but it's still very helpful to kind of sort kids into groups. So if these kids can't segment CVC words, then you know this is where they need to go on the streamlined pathway. So we have some tools like that, but you can also use the assessments that you already have and use them to figure out where you need to group your kids. And I'm there in the discussion board, the teacher's lounge, to answer those types of questions for you. So don't mean for you to add more to your workload. I want you to use what you have and make decisions rapidly. Okay, any questions coming in? Anusia says, thank you, eager to try these strategies. Great. Trina says, thank you so much. I've joined. Yay, way to go, Trina. You can't wait to explore. I look forward to hearing from you. Jump into the teacher's lounge and say hi and let me know more about you. I'll be writing back to you tomorrow. Rachel says, thank you. Oh, Dee says, by the way, a group here was watching together. Awesome. You're committed to Switch It. That's the first time I've heard about that from a group. Great. I would love to hear back a report. That's great. You will be amazed at Switch It, I think. Great, great, great. Keep the questions and the comments coming. I'm going to keep scrolling back and see what I missed. Okay, Maria says she's using a program that she's already learned the sounds of the alphabet, but she's focused learning short vowels. And this week's focus is short I. That's fine. And then just with Switch It, you just would be helping them learn short I faster by having them go back between short I, short E, short A. All that back and forth is what really triggers the brain to learn a lot. And Sue says, had said earlier, would she be able to see the presentation later? Yes. Everybody, please look for the replay because I went through this like lightning. These are maybe very radical strategies. And if it was too much, you can watch the replay. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be available till Friday night. And Vivian's very excited to try these activities with her students. Yay. Thank you. You're going to get busy using some resources so you can make them use them straight away. Awesome. And Judy loves the bonuses. Karen, tell me more about what you mean. How many grade levels do the kids make? How many grade levels are the norm? I'd love to answer that question, but I'm not sure I quite understand what you're coming at there, Karen. Sorry. I'm scrolling back. Okay. Dee asked earlier, do we use similar words from Switch It and Read It? Actually, no, because if they've just been hearing the word in Switch It, then the blending might be a little easier. I want to really challenge their blending and practice that blend as you read strategy. So I might use the same letter sounds if they're trying to work on, say, short A and short I. I might use those same letter sounds, but I usually would try a different word unless the student has maybe a very challenging learning difficulty. Then that would be a way to make it easier. But by and large, I try not to use the same words. Good question. Maria, yes, I will be emailing you the link for the replay. And if you don't get it, let me know. I did have a glitch earlier today. Many of you noticed when I said we were going live way before we were. So, you know, I feel like I'm a strong reading teacher. I'm not necessarily the greatest at all these computer automations. So if I have any problem, let me know. Join Dorothy. Yay. Okay, Karen, how many levels on average do the kids make in 1 year? All right. I can give you the data that I have is 2 parts. In the previous reading intervention that I did, there was a clinical trial, and we didn't look at how many levels they went up, but we did do effect sizes. So if you are familiar with other research studies on effect sizes of reading interventions, getting to 0.4 and 0.7 in all reading measures is kind of rare. So that's strong. Now, me in my private practice, I expect kids to get to grade level in 12 hours of instruction, usually across 12 weeks. So there's some time where they're practicing their reading, but I meet with them for about an hour. So that wouldn't immediately translate perfectly into the classroom because it's one-on-one. But it's pretty darn close that you can move those kids through the streamlined pathway, 1 sound a week, and in about 12 weeks, they can get most of the code. So they can probably get to grade level or beyond. Actually, I want them to be above grade level in their word attack, their ability to attack unfamiliar words. And Word identification and fluency kind of varies depending on the strengths of the child's visual memory. It will improve everyone's faster than traditional instruction, but if they're on the the one end of the bell curve where this is visual memory is a bigger struggle, they may take longer than the majority of the kids. So that is my experience coupled with that research. If you want to look at some of that research, you could just go to Google Scholar and type in my name. I was just one of the co-authors on many of those studies. Good question. Okay, I'm scrolling back. I'll keep answering your questions. And I love it how some of you are already jumping in, whether you're committing to switch it or you're jumping right into the Reading Simplified Academy. I think you're going to see results. I know you're going to see results. Okay, I got to the end of what I can see. They've limited how much I can scroll back. So please ask me any more questions if I didn't get it earlier, and I'm sorry. Yes, so I think we've got these questions answered. So don't forget the bonuses. You get the calls. Well, first of all, this is how you get in. But you get, before the clock expires, you get 7 different games for Snakes and Ladders. You would get that multimedia ebook. And then everybody will get access to 2 calls with me, bonus calls that you can set up on your own time. Let's see. Karen says, thanks, so great. Sounds so great. Awesome. Everybody who joins by Friday at midnight will get 7 different Candyland games. Just cut these out and use them week after week, and it's easy to differentiate with that. You'll also get the Steal It game, which is super fun. Like I said, it tricks kids into reading words that they don't want to read. And here you can see with the A sound, there's different spellings of A, the A in play, the A in paper, the A in great and they, those lower frequency spellings. These games, they're teaching the letter sounds and high frequency words. So that's how they get into the code more quickly. And they're reading books like Henry and Mudge and Frog and Toad much more quickly this way. And the other bonus, as I mentioned before, this is just the super fast acting bonus, the Stakes and Ladders and the multimedia ebook. So Linda, great question. I'm glad you asked that. So when you join today, you will get immediate access to the Reading Simplified Academy, which is the video course, the materials, and the Teacher's Lounge. Now the materials come to you once you get to that level. So if you get to switch it, once you get to switch it, then you get the materials. So I don't want you to be overwhelmed. So then you go to read it the next day or the next week and you get the materials then. But all of that will be accessed, provided access to you immediately. The bonuses will come in an email later within the next 24 hours. So if you don't get them in the next 24 hours, you probably have some kind of glitch with your email. So email me back. So you should expect them very soon. But that has to be done manually. That's a great question. And Dorothy already said she's excited to begin. I love it. Rachel, you said thank you. Rosemary, thanks very much. And Karen already, I think I said thanks for these great ways to help our students. Yes, I'm so glad you're excited. You're welcome, Liesel. Oh, and I missed Cassie. I see your name there. You're welcome, Cassie. Okay. So I'm going to leave this up there. You can see the offer. But if there aren't any more questions about reading or about the membership, I think we can call it a night. Are there any more questions, you guys? I'm going to give the last call. I know I asked about emailing, but I can't get the freebies to download. Oh, okay. Alicia, if you email me, I'll remember your name and then I can email you the freebie. But I just can't email the whole group, the whole list, because it's only for you valiant few who showed up live. Okay, one more last call. Questions, comments? You guys have been troopers for staying on this long. I really appreciate the engagement. I appreciate the enthusiasm. I'm really excited for how this is going to serve your kids. But it's been a long night. So I think we should say goodnight. Okay, you can't get the freebies either. When you click the button, Rebecca and Alicia, did Did it not come up, or did you never see the button? Maria said, thank you for a great webinar. My pleasure. You guys helped make it great for sure. Let's see. I will try. Good night, Dorothy. You're welcome. Maria, it was great to meet you. I really appreciate your engagement and enthusiasm. Awesome, says Alicia. What's your email? My email, you probably couldn't have gotten on here without my email, so it should be in your inbox, but it's Marnie Ginsberg at readingsimplified.com. You can also connect with me at my website, which is readingsimplified.com. Let's make sure I type this right. I'll put it up there. Okay, Alicia didn't see and Rebecca didn't see it, so I will share that file again. Whoops. Oh, I just downloaded it. Huh. That's not what I meant to do. Okay. I'm going to share this offer again. See if you see it kind of as a button somewhere. You guys, I'm going to share this again. Can you see it? Is it popping up? Maybe you're on a type of computer. Just wanted to make sure it was the same. Yeah, you'll get the freebies, the certificate of participation, the Steal It O sound game, and the Sort It packet. I think that's what it is. It may be either Steal It or Candyland. I'm sorry, I forgot. Not the offer. Right, I took the offer down so you could get the freebies. Okay, I'll put the offer back up. Oh, I see, you guys. Okay, I'll put the offer back up. Go ahead and click that offer. It's not disappearing for you, but if you haven't opened up that window to see how you can join the Reading Simplified Academy, go ahead and click that offer. Sorry about that. I was just trying to get the freebies out for those who had the freebies. Okay, see, thank you for letting me know it's there now. Okay. Great. Now, I won't leave yet. I just want to make sure that those who expected the freebie got it. And like I said, I can make individual emails for those I know who were here, but. Oh, okay, Kaylee. Yeah, look out for the replay because that's the best that I can do for you because obviously you have to take care of your family and this was long. In the future, I will be doing them at different times and you'll be able to select the time that you want, but that might not come for a couple more weeks. Oh, great, Rebecca. I'm glad you got it. Chanel says, now I can see it again. Whew, you're welcome. Okay, so we've got our freebies out there. You can see the offer. And it doesn't seem like there's any more questions. So I think it's time to maybe call it a night. Oh, Vanessa, you didn't get the freebies? Do you see a bar somewhere that says download file? That's what you should look for, Vanessa. And if you didn't get it, just email me. I'll be emailing you the replay. You can write back and say, I didn't get it. And if your name is there, I will get it. How much is the offer? So, Kaylee, the Reading Simplified Academy, thank you, Alicia. I'm sorry about the tech. That's the way it is sometimes, right? Kaylee, how much? So you have two choices. One of them is, well, you actually have four. But for the standard option, which includes everything that I've been talking about today, plus the bonuses by Friday, is $39 a month. Or if you do a yearly offer, it's a discount of $390, so you get 2 months free. So that's the best value that I have, and you can leave whenever you need. So there's no long-term contracts or commitments. So getting in at $39 a month, testing the water, seeing if what I've been experiencing is your experience is a pretty good offer. Sharon, have a good night. You're welcome. I'm glad you were here. Okay, so it's long. You guys are tired and you've been troopers. I hope that you dive into Switch It at least and check out that offer. Remember, the bonuses are going to be good for another few minutes. How many more minutes? Looks like you got 37 more minutes to decide to get the super fast acting bonuses. All right, everyone. Oh, here's another question. If I get the $39 a month, Maria says, what's your question there, Maria? Oh, that's interesting. Yes, absolutely. And some people do that with when their school pays, you know, if you want to do that. You're welcome, Linda. Vanessa, my pleasure. I don't have a very, yeah, we'll work that out, Maria, if that's what you want to do. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good night.